Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
Are you a teacher or parent looking for a fun and educational way to inspire kids through music? Introducing Piano Inspires Kids, the ultimate resource for young pianists. Each quarterly issue will inspire students to discover composers and music from around the world, explore creative activities, and play new music written by today's leading composers. Piano Inspires Kids will also connect young pianists to a broader community of inspired music makers through the many opportunities to share and submit their own content. From practice tips and technique guides to interviews with young pianists and composers, Piano Inspires Kids offers something for every young musician eager to explore the world of piano. Subscribe today at kids.pianoinspires.com using code PODCAST15 at checkout for a subscription less than $2.50 a month billed annually.
Well, thank you for joining us at the Francis Clark Center Piano Inspires podcasts. I'm Pamela Pike, editor-in-chief of the Piano Magazine, one of the publications of the Francis Clark Center. And we are thrilled to have Catherine Rollin with us today. Catherine Rollin is a pianist, composer, clinician, author, and teacher of prize-winning students. Her more than 400 published pedagogical compositions are recognized worldwide for their combination of musicality and teachability. As a clinician, Catherine has given over 300 workshops and masterclasses throughout the U.S., Canada, Japan, and Taiwan. Her efforts as a composer, clinician, and author are an outgrowth of her work as a teacher. Finding the answers to help her students develop artistic, relaxed, and confident technical skills led Catherine to insights featured in her groundbreaking series, Pathways to Artistry. Catherine's ASCAP-winning books, Museum Masterpieces, feature her original piano works inspired by great art masterpieces from museums around the world. And I think we may get a sneak peek of some new ones today. She also was a co-author of the very important piano pedagogy textbook for college, the 2011 edition, Creative Piano Teaching, which many of us use in our classes. All of the many facets of Catherine's work emanate from her central passion for teaching. She loves meeting piano teachers, piano students, and music aficionados. And hopefully we will introduce even more people to you today, Catherine.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, thanks for joining us and making time for us. We're coming from the MTNA National Conference, and you are very busy here. I know this year you had a student in the competitions.
Yes.
You just came from launching a couple of your books, so we really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So, I think one way to understand, how someone ends up with this beautiful biography like this is to go back to their roots. So I wonder if you might tell us a little bit about your early experiences in childhood with music.
Yeah. And interrupt me, please, if I go on for too long.
Okay.
Because I feel like if almost any human being had the kind of wonderful atmosphere I grew up in my home, they would become a musician, right, or certainly have music be a very important part of their life. And my parents were both very musical. Neither one of them did music professionally. Mm-hmm. But my father, as a young boy, couldn't afford to have lessons, but he took violin lessons as an adult starting at age 40. Mm-hmm. And my mother took through her teenage years on piano. But their main thing was that their central love of music just dominated our whole household. But when I say dominated, it was in my father, who was also a passionate chess player, could be playing chess. In fact, he always played chess with classical music playing in the background. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't always background. He sometimes just sat there and listened. And so I heard piano concertos, violin concertos. That was more a favorite of his than even symphonic works, and basically, my mother was a lover of all of it, but sometimes she wasn't in the same room, but she was always hearing it because the house, this wasn't the day when people had, ear pods in.
Mhm.
So we all heard all of the music.
Right.
And just to say, probably my earliest childhood memory, because I actually really remember it, it isn't just stories told to me, was that my father did love the triumphant march from Aida. And he would always put me on his shoulders until I was too big to go on his shoulders. And he would walk me around the house singing the triumphal march. And then as I got a little taller, my mother would be saying, "Watch your head," as he went through doorways, because he just was always, music was just so central. And my parents took myself and my sister to every concert. It wasn't sort of like, this is for adults.
Right.
So when they bought tickets to see Van Cliburn, the whole family went.
Right.
But it wasn't an upbringing that had anything to do with ambition for their children. It was all naturally, we're going to play piano and make music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and,
it was just part of the
and
culture.
they played by ear.
Okay.
And quite well. And then sometimes my mother would have to do something else, and my sister would come in and play. And then when my sister became more of a teenager, I replaced her. As for my father's violin moments,
Oh, yes.
And we all played by ear.
Okay.
So that gives you a little bit, but I could go on and on about all of the culture in the house.
Yeah, well, so tell us then about your first maybe formal lessons when you were a child.
Yeah, it was that, these days people start lessons much earlier, but I didn't start till I was 7, but I already was really good at playing by ear.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I was in kindergarten, they took me out of the class to go perform for the first graders. That was my debut, my
Wow.
public debut. But I had never had a lesson, but I was playing Für Elise by ear from hearing my older sister play it.
Mm.
And so that was my biggest premiere.
That's wonderful. Wonderful.
So, but it didn't start the lessons till I was 7.
Okay. And was your first teacher inspirational for you, or was it a teacher later on down the line?
I think that basically my first teacher was somebody who loved teaching and was really, really excellent. But basically, I kind of got away with too much in terms of playing by ear. So I was just, and so she would put me in, like if she was doing an 8-hand number. I remember I played with the teenagers, and then I came on at like 7 or 8-year-old playing. And I'm not really sure to this day if I played my part correctly, but I was playing the right notes in terms of, I was in the right key.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't read as well as I should have, because I kind of got away with that. So I did start studying with my most inspirational teacher. Probably the biggest impact on me as an overall musician when I was 11. I studied with the Detroit Symphony pianist named Misha Kotler. And he gave me probably the most overall idea of how I wanted to play everything, because he had studied with Courteau and Von Sauer, and he was the Detroit Symphony pianist. So almost every year he played one of the Rachmaninoff concertos or the Rhapsody and Paganini with them. And he was marvelous, but basically he loved everything, and I loved everything that he gave me. So he gave me so much Bach. I mean, I just studied so much Bach and so much Chopin and a lot of Debussy. And his biggest weakness and biggest strength was he wasn't a pedagogue.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't, in terms of inspiration or helping you with problems, that wasn't his forte.
Mm-hmm.
But what he gave me was such a gift of sound. So his main teaching method was sound like this, and he would play it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that developed, my ear for all the colors. And the thing that I want to make a tribute to him, because it was still a day when people were over romanticizing Bach and that sort of thing. But he played with such incredible, I mean, there might be people who are purists who say don't play Bach on the piano at all. But he basically was doing sort of, like very, very light flutter pedaling and all these things that fortunately my ear could pick up because he didn't instruct, but all the sound, all of his ornamentation was so accurate. And I did couple summers, I studied harpsichord with Dorothy Lane at Northwestern, and she was kind of really impressed with my Baroque playing because it was so, historically fine. And all that I got, but not from him saying, we're going to do the ornament this way. I just listened to him, so he was, but, I feel like he's just a great inspiration for Chopin playing, Debussy playing, just because I listened to him. So in value, what's the most important thing in music is, developing the ear for what the best sound for the music.
Right. So when did you know you were going to be a professional musician?
I think that basically when I was thinking about, going on for undergrad degree, I was coming out of I had started doing some composing. I was really, a pretty fine pianist, but didn't at all think of myself as a serious, like I was going to do that because Mr. Kotler had been the teacher. I don't know if you're familiar with the name, but Ruth Laredo and Cynthia Rame and oh gosh, his name is going to escape me right now. But he was a professor and head of music for a while at Juilliard, and his name is out of my mind at the moment. But the point is, he had some very accomplished players. So I wasn't practicing 4 hours a day, and so in any case, I didn't really think about music in that way because the other people, the person who came before me at the lesson, the person who came after me at the lesson, were all really practicing a lot and serious about it. And I think because my parents loved music so much, they thought of it always as just a glorious hobby.
Did you at the time think that performance was the only pathway for a professional career?
Well, I think that's true, that's part of one of the things that I think that has evolved so much since that time. And, since we are all so involved in pedagogy, I think that people more had the vision of, some people even, I think, painfully thought of pedagogy as like a fall from grace, and it's, and so I think that for myself, I started at University of Michigan thinking I was going to be a composition major because I played Mr. Kotler a few of my melodies, and he said, that's really good, and his wife, came in at one lesson. These people were very old school Russian, critical of everything. And she came in, she said, that melody you played last week, stay with me all week long. So any case, so I thought, okay, maybe that's what I'll do. But again, it was all very sort of casual in terms of not thinking of it in that very serious way. But when I got into music school, I realized I better change my attitude. But basically what happened is the more that I got involved in things, with a more serious idea, I didn't have to change my attitude. I just changed,
right.
And, but as far as I ended up actually not wanting to go the path of being a composition major because the emphasis was really on, atonal, things that, 12-tone rows, which to be honest, just didn't appeal to me. I knew that my answer lay for me in melodic music.
Yes. And it's beautiful music.
Thank you. So But if you want me to cut to the chase of how I got to here just from there,
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, I had a teaching fellow because before I was a piano major, I didn't get to have a professor as a teacher. So I had a teaching fellow. And when I was going to be a composition major. But anyway, so she didn't know the rules and everything. And I told her I love the Ravel piano concerto. And so we worked on it all semester and she had me play it for the jury. Well, anyway, just to say that I did play it very well because I loved it. And they told her, oh, you weren't supposed to play a concerto for the jury. But in any case, I did play it well. And so they invited me to be in the piano department. So that sort of clinched that. And then I started thinking, well, I really love playing the piano. So all of a sudden it became more of a career thing.
Mm-hmm.
And push it one notch further, I didn't think I was going to love teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had absorbed too many people saying negative things about teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, though, I thought I was just going to do it as a holdover before trying to get a master's. At that point, I thought maybe in chamber because I love playing chamber music.
Mm-hmm.
But after the first few lessons, I thought, I didn't even just think it consciously. I just knew my desire to help students get to be able to play
Mm-hmm.
was just, it was like a fire was lit instantly. And I had some really challenging students who most people would say, oh, horrible students. But talent-wise and commitment-wise and interest-wise. Because I often tell the story because I started out as a driving to the house piano teacher.
Did you?
Yes. And so, sometimes I would try and put forth my idea about, a beautiful phrase or doing this and that, and sometimes the parents would say to me, we love you and the kids are inspired by you, but we don't want them to be concert pianists, and I would just always be laughing because I would be thinking, all I wanted them to do was count 2 beats for half note versus 1 beat for a quarter note, very modest goals. But anyway, in kind of a very surprise thing, I love teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And should I go on to becoming a writer?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like teaching sort of chose you or you found your way there, but it seems like the composition piece was always a part for you. So yeah, continue on. Yeah.
Well, what happened is that I want to pay a tribute to William Gillock,
Mm-hmm.
who was the first pedagogical composer that I was introduced to. Later on, I became friends with and mentored by a wonderful composer, Lynn Freeman Olson.
Mm-hmm.
But it started with me discovering William Gillock. And, I became a person who haunted the music store looking for music that I thought would light the fire of my students.
Yes.
And I found his music, became a giant fan. And something happened to me that I thought, this is an area where I could write the melodic music I want to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really understand the needs because I'm so into teaching and I'm teaching a lot of elementary students and those coming into intermediate. And I think this is, something I want to do. And I just started writing pieces. And to say, I gave some of my students actually in person to William Gillock, and he wrote me a letter a couple weeks later saying that he thought this is what I should do professionally.
Mm.
Well, that was the word from,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A very important mentor.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's how I got into it.
Wonderful. So I wonder if you might talk a little. I mean, your pieces my students love them,
Thank you.
Pre-college through adult students, because they're beautiful. They fit the piano. They sound lovely, but you understand the pedagogical needs of a student. I mean, that's very clear. But for me, the museum masterpieces were really so important because now we have visual artwork that's inspiring music, and then the student gets to put their stamp on it as the interpreter, as the performer. So I wonder if you
Yes.
might share some of how those
How
came
that
to
evolved.
be. Yeah.
Yes. So basically, I had really most of my time as a teacher, once I wasn't driving to people's houses, I I always had an extensive. I forgot to mention that my parents also took myself and my sister to the art museum all the time. So we just, but they weren't trying to push arts on you, if you understand.
I
That's why I
do.
want to say it was all, they loved it, so they thought we'll love it and we'll
Mhm.
just go with them.
Mhm.
But from a very young age, I collected art books, and so my first big things was I bought my first record album was Leonard Bernstein playing playing and conducting Beethoven Concerto No. 1. And my first art book was, I think the publisher was Phaedon, and I got that when I was about 8, a Renoir.
Mm.
And so I always had a large collection of art books. And when I was teaching, not ever thinking about this series, Museum Masterpieces, but just when I wanted to say something to the student about looking at the music and understanding how to use their arms and how to use because, and that of course all came into my technique books as well,
Mhm.
is thinking much less about fingers and thinking much more about the arms.
Right.
And especially in legato playing, you're really in trouble if you're thinking about each individual finger.
Mm.
And so I would then, to try and inspire the students, find one of my Monet books and just open up, because to almost any page,
Yes.
you could see the brush strokes that just say flow with your arms. So we would just start brush stroking. And so one of my favorite pieces that always had some artwork imagery was the Arabesque of Debussy, No. 1, because you have da 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 da, and so you have your left hand coming into your right hand, and so the biggest enemy of legato is the thumb, or can be. It can be the greatest, because in my technique books I have this thing, thumb roll.
Yeah.
The thumb roll can facilitate the most fluidity.
Right.
So I always was using, and I was telling the students to feel the water, and that the thumb rolls into the other thumb. So you don't ever feel that a thumb is a stopper. The thumb is the fluid motion. But I would always take out, and we would just look, and we would just make brush strokes in the air kind of
Mhm.
thing. And so I was always using the art imagery. And then a few years before the series even started, I spoke with them at Alfred and told them I'd like to do that. And it was the kind of thing where there was some hesitancy, because the idea of incorporating all this and maybe incorporating the artworks is a more involved book.
Yes.
Kind of thing. But fortunately, finally, they concluded, yes, okay, I got the go ahead. And that's how it all started.
Yeah. Would you like to show us, because you have some
Okay,
new, as
yes.
of this recording, books
There-
out? But because if someone hasn't seen this, it's beautiful. Well,
Yes,
they are
thank you.
beautiful editions.
So I'm going to start. This was the first one. I don't even know if this is the right word. I use this word and I have to look it up. But this is the first book that I did under the Catherine Rollin music imprimatur. Maybe, I'm not even sure, but under that name. And this has one of my favorite. A favorite is kind of like a happy sounding word for a very sad painting, but it's a Van Gogh that moved me so deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was for the first book, and I did the same model that Alfred did because I thought it was beautiful.
Yes.
And that is it. In each book, there is a 4-page art insert where you can see the artwork. Yes. And I just to say, because I admit to you, I'm very proud of this series.
Well, it's so valuable because so many of our students, either because of place, they're not close to a city where there might be a a fine art museum.
Yeah.
They don't have that experience, and it's not necessarily part of one's family culture anymore,
Right.
like it was yours.
Right.
So
Very much so.
and
It's-
the arts are interrelated, and they're all about expression, but one can inform the other.
Yes, and the latest books I did, this is book 1 and book 2. It started out, I said, okay, I have to, because I thought this book might be the last book of the series, but I just started finding some women artists
Yes.
that were
yes.
amazing. So here's book 1, here's book 2,
Wonderful.
and this one, just to say, for me, and I feel for all people, and I feel like it's series that helps teachers so much to develop their creativity. And for myself, I feel like it develops my creativity.
Mhm.
And but so there's all of these are women artists now.
Yes.
But just to give you a little example, because you learn from the history, the artwork on the cover here is Elizabeth Lebrun, and she was a very, very famous portrait artist in France around the time of the French Revolution. And she was the chosen portrait artist of Marie Antoinette.
Mm.
But, you associate such, negativity with Marie Antoinette. But you see here this beautiful, loving mother. This is her
Yes.
with her daughter.
Yes.
And this one, we don't know the name of this sitter, but this is Laura Wheeler Waring, who was a wonderful African American artist. And so she was, to me, one of my greatest discoveries.
Mhm.
I love this one so much, and the attitude is so, there's a personality there of this woman that's so beautiful.
Mhm.
And I just love it. There's a sense of independence and elegance that she captures in this
Yes.
woman. But this artist she has several portraits in the Smithsonian Portrait Gallery. So I think, though, that not only does the artwork inspire people, I would show some art and ask people, what speaks to you.
Yes.
People, like, I showed them that cover of that beautiful woman, and people were inspired by her presence.
Mhm.
And then with the mother and child, people are inspired by the mood of that. But basically, I feel that the artwork and then putting it together with music, I feel like it's an incredibly expanding experience for the student or whoever's playing it. They don't even have to be studying, because it helps them feel like something that they might not tangibly feel like they understand, but it gives them a story and a meaning and a feeling from the artwork.
Mhm.
And just one last word about for myself as a composer, and I said this yesterday because I don't want to sound like I'm having hallucinations of that, that the composers are becoming the composer. I keep saying the composer, that I'm the composer, but the artists are becoming my friends. No, but I feel so much like their painting speaks to me,
Mhm.
and I feel like they're collaborating with me. And, it's just a wonderful experience. And ultimately, I feel like anything that's collaborative in the arts like that, whether it be me writing the piece or a student playing the piece, there is, and it might sound kind of corny, but there's an awfully wonderful thing of feeling the commonality of human beings
Mhm.
and of the
Mhm.
human spirit.
Yes.
And ultimately, I think that's what the arts should do for us.
Yes. Yeah.
So so I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to say these great statements, but I think that is what the arts do for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of the questions we ask everyone, since it's the Piano Inspires podcast, is what inspires you? And you just gave us that answer without even being prompted.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
How do you feel your work is having an impact in the world. You are fortunate. You hear from teachers all the time. You hear about these positive stories, but um, are there any you might want to share with us?
Well, I can tell you a very recent experience was now that I have an active website and I have these things all on, all these hard copy books, I'm also doing some digital downloads. So it's been very, very rewarding to just get orders. I mean, obviously, it's nice to get orders for your music, but it's even more than the order is getting letters from people around the world, because people around the world they are reaching out for getting digital because it's so hard and so expensive to mail things. So one lady who had contacted me during the pandemic time, she's in Ukraine. And she had already used a lot of my music before the war started. And she was sending me student performances. And many times students were, because I don't think they had even the comfort or freedom to even meet in one place for recital. So people were, playing in their own house and then sending them in. And she sent me a lot of things. But the nicest thing was that she contacted me and she went on my website and she got all my new music, all these digital downloads, which was really wonderful. And then she wrote me, she said, this is going to be the next recital, but we're giving a recital of your museum masterpieces, books A and B. And would you be so kind to just say hello to each student, and I'll give you the names of the pieces they're playing, and, just say hello or some little message to the student. So there were about 30 students performing. And so it was sort of, and I felt embarrassed because I don't think I pronounced their names very well, but I just, that was very meaningful to me,
and it must have been for the students because they now have a connection with a real living composer.
Yes. And it was, I can't even tell you, because I felt like things were really hard in the country. And I felt like if this is giving the kids some spirit, my music, I just felt, what can I say other than it just made me feel, it made me feel like I was doing what I hope music is always doing, but it seemed especially special under their, kind of dire circumstances. And they just started sending me, before I left for here, all the tapes that they had made, because I gave it as a pre-message. And so I haven't had a chance to listen to all of them, but I only listened to one, but it was outstanding.
Well, that's wonderful that that's still happening. Those children need music in their lives now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So in that regard, anytime I feel that I've reached somebody who loves a piece, and that means that they love music, I always feel gratified. But that one was especially moving, to know that they carried on and did this recital, and all that in these circumstances. So it was great.
How do you think music will shape our future moving forward collectively?
Well, you kind of are coming to the topic of my presentation that I did yesterday. Okay. I already did it, so I think I can say it.
So it's okay, yes.
It's okay. I had submitted a proposal to MTNA to do a session called Human Imagination or AI. And to be honest with you, because anybody who knows me knows I'm not techie at all. So to be honest with you, my own daughter said, "Mom, how did you come up with that?" Because everything, she calls me computer mom, because she set up my first computer. But she is involved herself in studying AI and relationships. She is soon going to be starting her master's, and she is specializing in research related to AI. She wants to develop instruments. She wants to develop AI as an enhancement, not as a replacement. Her idea was, I'm going to try and input a lot of your pieces and see what the AI can learn about your style and see what it spits back coming out. And it was in the very, I mean, she wanted me to remind people this is in the very, very rough, primitive stages, because she herself was just learning how to do all of this. And in any case, but it was very interesting, and it made me think a lot, and think a lot about intuition and imagination and inspiration. And because we were talking about is inductive thinking, I think I got my term right, is that just something that, as opposed to human inspiration, is that what you can teach a machine? Will it turn into inspiration and intuition? Is intuition just having so many inputs that it's not really something different than what a machine learns? And at this point, I still think that it is different than what a machine learns.
Well, and go back to that first memory with your father carrying you around on his shoulders to Aida. That's experiencing music.
Right.
In a way that a computer never can. And
I 100% want to follow up with that, because exactly in the end, and this was sort of my closing, was that the human intuition and inspiration is so much coming from a place that is, it's physical, actually. And I love that you referenced that, because at the end of my session, I was talking about how when people really feel things, they refer to things always, in, if you notice, in ways that are physical, and a gut feeling. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my heart, and all those sort of things. And I feel like that is the best of what makes us human beings.
Yes.
And if I can say what I close my message to the teachers, because I feel, and that's why I feel we teachers we have to be the soldiers in keeping the best of humanity alive and keep it growing, growing, growing. And my own feeling is as a piano teacher, if you can give your student the experience of being one with the music, and it could be a 5-finger position piece, but they're just enjoying it so much. But they're not just enjoying it like this is fun. They're enjoying it from their whole physical soul.
Yes.
Where you just, I have a student that, it's not my student, but someone sent a little student singing my song called A Tall Giraffe, and it has an octave stretch. And seeing this little child delight in that stretch of the octave and singing it, it is a very physical joy. Mm-hmm. It's like, so basically, that's what I think is that we can impart this to our students.
Yes.
We can lead them to it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what teaching is. It's leading.
Yeah.
And so that sort of leads me to the final question, and you've sort of answered it already, but you may want to put a finer point on it. How does piano inspire you, or what does piano inspire?
The instrument specifically?
Yeah.
I can only say, to me, piano is me,
wow,
and
wow, that's profound.
Yeah.
That's profound.
The keys are an extension of me, and I rarely sit at a piano where I have, unless it's really badly voiced and out of tune. But I rarely sit at a piano where I don't have an experience that is expressive, and where, when I say it's me, because sometimes I have to say I'm more me than when I'm just sitting around myself. Just if I just turn the TV on or go shopping, I'm more me when I'm there.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I guess saying it in that simple, it's me, because it's the most feeling part of myself.
That's lovely. That's lovely. And I want to thank you, because I think our viewers have gotten to know you
Yes.
as a pianist, as a composer, as a teacher, as a musician, as a person, for what you've been willing to share with us today. So,
Well, thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to, hopefully I will inspire some teachers to even more.
I have no doubt about that. So thank you, and keep up this wonderful work, because it is an inspiration to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspires Online Community Hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.